Good morning everyone and welcome back to the Two-Headed Wolf Gaming channel and last Epoch, as today, after going through all of the classes and all of the masteries, it is finally time for me to go into the endgame, explore it for the very first time and see what it has to offer on the high end. And for this endeavor, I decided to go back to a build which I created during the exploration phase, a close combat spellcaster, which is created from a primalist going into the Shaman mastery, and the idea of it is that we are using melee attacks in order to trigger spells, and we're focusing on those spells to scale up damage and find gear for, and it's actually a really cool concept. Just to give an example here with Gathering Storm, it is a melee attack which does 692 damage, and whenever we hit an enemy we gain a storm stack. Whenever that storm stack triggers, it automatically drops a storm bolt on the enemy, dealing 2097 damage, which is almost triple the damage of our melee attacks. It's actually a bit more than triple our melee attacks, and that's really cool. Plus, the storm bolts trigger over time, so what happens is that you are fighting enemies, a mob, a pack, in melee combat, and you see all these lightning bolts dropping down, killing the enemies around you, and then as you're heading towards the next mob pack, you already see storm bolts keep firing at the new enemies, killing a lot of the squishier ones, and thus reducing the amount of damage that you will be taking when you're engaged in melee combat, increasing your survivability, and overall, it's a really cool idea. I loved it, and that's why I'm back to it. And there's another reason why I decided to go with this sort of class. Whenever I'm trying out a new RPG, or ARPG, or MMORPG, doesn't really matter, I always like to start with a melee class or a close combat specialist like this one. Just because I want to see what it is like to take the full amount of damage, and how do you protect yourself against it. When you are in melee combat, you take damage from melee fighters and also from ranged attackers, right? Whenever you are creating a ranged character like a marksman, hopefully the idea of it is that you are trying to avoid melee damage as much as possible. You shoot from a distance and try to take the enemies down. You put traps, stopping them in place. You kite, you run away, right? And you shoot. You do all sorts of tactics in order to avoid melee damage and thus take only range damage. And that doesn't give you the best idea of how it is like to build defenses in a game. That's why I always like to jump into one of these classes and just get a feel for it. So if you want to see how this character was created, I've made a separate list where I threw in the free videos which I've done from the exploratory stage. The way it's recorded, I guess, is that we go through an episode, we talk about ideas, and we get a feel for the power level. Then off camera, off record, I am leveling up around 5 to 7 levels, find better gear, gather a bunch of passive and active skill points, so that we return in the next episode, spend everything which I've gathered, talk about my, share the thought process behind the choices that I'm making, throwing in better gear, we get a feel for the new power level, make a new plan, then once again I'm farming, and so on and so forth, until there's no point in showing anything anymore. So that's what I'm going to do from here on out. It seemed like you like the idea, so I am going to keep doing it like this. If you have any feedback, leave it down in the comment below. But for now, let's just get into this fight, which seems like it's a boss fight. I've actually jumped into it just to see what it was like and then jumped out of it because I wanted to do this together with you. So I have here Gathering Storm, I have Summon Storm Totem, which I throw down only to get the 50% resistances that you get from the Shaman mastery here. So you can see 50% elemental resistance while you control a totem. As long as you drop a totem on the battlefield, you get those resistances, and that can help you whenever you're fighting elemental enemies. I have Tempest right here, which is a melee attack that triggers spells like Frigid Tempest, Wind Tempest, and Thunder Tempest. All really cool, and Maelstrom is something that we are activating automatically, but I will talk more about it as soon as we are done with this battle. So let's get into it.
I've heard of your power.
Yeah. Look at this. Yep, that one's pretty much melted. Let's throw down a totem. It's going to do some extra damage. We're going to use this Tempest Strike because it triggers a cold attack, which has a chance to slow down enemies, to chill enemies, and thus slowing their attacks and movement speed down. I'm also using the Tempest, what was it called? The Wind Tempest. It's like a twister, which does physical damage. And then we have the Lightning Tempest, the final thing, which does lightning damage, pretty much. Our highest damaging attack. Now this is a bit difficult just because of the amount of poison that I have around here. And I'm gonna try to collect some of those health potions, but you can see that we are dropping a lot of lightning bolts, so it doesn't really require us doesn't require from us a whole lot of effort to do a lot of damage. As long as we've done a few triggers and we gather some of these stacks, everything is okay, everything is fine, we can move away from the enemy. The reason why I'm taking so much damage is because I haven't leveled up in a long while, just gathering passive skill points so that I can share the builds and the choices with you guys. So that's what we're going to do. Now let's see here. I've ran out of ravens. I'm gonna try to bring a few more on the battlefield just to increase it. Ravens increase my spell damage as well, so I've been using them a lot. Seems like this mob has like multiple phases. One where he's using the sights and I think he's doing a lot more physical damage, and when he turns into a worm it seems like he's poisoning the ground. But there it is.
No more games. You. Why are you here?
So we've destroyed that one.
Now's our chance. Quick, use.
You pathetic human mistake.
We're going to watch this.
You think you can kill me? You think you can?
Enough! Can't use the lance! The Lance of Herod. Where is it? Quickly! You need to get out of here!
That was cool, but it's cooler to upgrade our character, so let's get to that. From the Primalist tree, I don't think I want a whole lot more at the moment. Elder Branch could be useful, where we could increase our spell damage and triple the effect by using an axe. We could use an axe on our offhand. At the moment I'm running a scepter in our main hand for the spell damage, and in the offhand I have a sword just because of 81% increased lightning damage and plus 6 to melee lightning damage and 32% chance to shock on hit. So everything here is adding to our lightning damage, and that's why I keep the sword. But I will probably change to an axe at some point in order to get a few more bonuses. The Rotbane here is just for totems, I don't care. Berserk could be useful. While on low health you take less damage and deal more melee damage. This could help us, with survivability. I think a bit more important would be to get Hunter's Restoration here, increasing our health by percentages and getting some extra health restored every 3 seconds. Finally, Ancestral Weaponry here is not important for us because it's focused around two-handed weapons and we are not using them. So we'll return here at a later date just to get 5% more spell damage and who knows what other modifiers. But at the moment, we're focused on Shaman. We're going from here to the right, and whenever there's nothing else to pick on the high end, then we are going to return and invest a few more points in some of these other skills. With this in mind, let's see what we have here. Elemental Shrines, +1 to attunement, which is really great. It is our main stat here that we are scaling up, and it's increasing the damage or the power for all of the skills that we have equipped at the moment. So that's why I keep wanting to get attunement. If we invest 5 points there, we increase the mana regeneration per free attunement. Then we have this path, which I've taken a look at before I started recording, where I could get increased elemental melee damage increased by 10% per point. Not something that I care for. Rhythm of Thunder, once again, we're not scaling melee damage, we're looking for spell damage. The melee is just a trigger. Rhythm of Thunder, every 3 seconds your next melee attack deals additional lightning damage. Once again, not our focus. However, we get to this one where your melee attacks have a chance to cast Stormbolt, so it's another chance to trigger Stormbolt beside everything that we have built up to so far. So we want to get that as well. At least 1 point is still an extra bolt out of every 10 hits, or something along those lines. It's not a perfect number, but something like that. And then we can get into Conflux. Your area skills have increased area and you take less damage from shocked enemies. We are shocking a lot of enemies, so this would be great. Plus, if we invest 5 points here, your indirect Stormbolt casts have a chance to cast again after 0.25 seconds. So the Stormbolts that we are casting when we trigger through an attack or things like that have a chance to double the cast. Once again, extra damage, absolutely great. We're gonna go on this path with at least 1 point. We want to get here, but we shall see later on how we decide to do that. Then elemental shrines, let's get more attunement here. And what else did we unlock? Eternal Storm, this one is for totems, so we don't care about them. Stormblade, you have increased melee damage for each active totem, once again we don't care about that. Lagon's Answer, your direct spell casts have a chance to cast Stormbolt. While channeling, you have a chance to cast Stormbolt. I'm not casting spells often directly, actually almost none at all, and I'm not really channeling skills, although I'm going to change that in a second, but I'm going to invest a point into it either way. And what else do I want? I think I want the mana, either a bit more spell damage or a bit more mana regeneration. Let's get here the 5 points necessary to get that mana regeneration. I feel like it's going to help us a lot, so why not? And then go into our active skills. We'll start with Maelstrom here, which acts as sort of a shield for our melee build. And as you can see, we can get multiple stacks, thus increasing the damage that we are dealing to surrounding enemies, and you can specialize in it, getting different buffs or dealing more damage. And the thing that I loved about it is that I could get Gathering Storm here, where killing an enemy has a chance to create a stack of Maelstrom, so we made it automatic. However, this effect has a 2-second cooldown. So every 2 seconds we have a 25% chance to trigger a Maelstrom whenever we kill an enemy. That doesn't happen as often. With the duration that I have going for me at the moment, it means that I'm getting around 3 to 4 stacks automatically. And what I am aiming for is to get 6, 7, something along those lines, so that I could start investing in Windswept and more importantly Wind Fury, where when I have 6 or more stacks of Maelstrom, I'm getting 30% increased movement speed, but more importantly, once again, 20% increased attack and cast speed, thus increasing our melee attacks, thus increasing our triggers, thus increasing our cast speed. So overall, a lot more power with something which is automatic. However, I also want to go on this side, where we get Power of the Storm. While you have 6 or more stacks, you cast Stormbolt at a nearby enemy each second. That's really cool, and I could actually get even more targets, so I could get 1 Stormbolt up to 4 Stormbolts for each point invested here, and that's really good. That's why I want the 6 stack. And the reason why I'm going to go to the right at this moment, on one hand, is because I'm getting a bit more duration, but on the other hand, because I'm getting this skill which reduces the stacks required to cast Lightning, -1 per point, and I feel like that's something that I will want. Plus we get a bit more dodge per Maelstrom, so I'm going to go this direction. However, I am not done yet. There's a bit more that we can do at the moment. If we take a look here at our basic attack, Gathering Storm, one of the things which I want is to go here, in the Eye of the Storm. Whenever you expand a Storm stack, and that happens a lot, every time we expand a Storm stack, we drop one of those Storm bolts. But whenever we expand one of those Storm stacks, we have a chance to cast Maelstrom, 5% per point, 10% with 2 points investment. It might not be the highest, but I really want to get this, hopefully increasing our chances to cast Maelstrom, and we'll see what we manage to do going forward. Plus we got a bit more chances here to get back a Storm stack whenever we are losing one, and that's also really cool. For Tempest Strike here, which summons the Frigid, Wind and Thunder Tempests, I started investing in this area just to get some extra attack. For example, Thunder Tempest now shocks enemies. I am going to invest 1 point here in Frigid Tempest to additionally freeze enemies, right? Chills them, slowing them down, their attack, their movement speed and all that, but also 60% chance to freeze them. Now, I don't want to invest a whole lot more into this, I just want all of the effects. And then we're gonna go down here to Ceaseless Typhoon. Whenever we cast Wind Tempest, we have a chance to also cast Tornado. That's extra damage, so I want to get there as well. For our crows here, the Storm Crows, I want us to first of all get Thundering Strike, where Crow Storm deals more damage and has increased chance to stun enemies. I do want that. I want the chance to stun enemies. And I also want them to shock enemies, and they also get increased area of effect for damage. I want that. I want to stack up as many of these shocks as we can. It's going to help us stun enemies, and it's also going to give us multiple effects depending on what we specialize. Then with the final 3 points, what do we want to do? Like, there's a few directions in which we could go. I think fulminating Ka might be the most important one. Your increase to lightning damage also applies to your storm crows, but at a reduced effectiveness. We could give a lot of power to our crows by giving them access to our power, right? So I am going to start investing into these, all of the points which are left. Now they're doing 150% more damage than what we give them. Or I guess it's at 100% there, it's the full stack, and they get the 50% extra.
Wait, I recognize these mountains. I must hurry.
Either way, I think my map is right there, but I am not that used. I will probably get a bit more used in time to do maps while I'm playing the game and I'm thinking of what I want to say. A bit of streaming should help me on that side. But there we go. Now we're getting up to 5 stacks. If you look down there, we're getting just up to 5. And I like that. That's pretty good. Our Stormcrows have died. I might have to start thinking of survivability for them as well. I'm taking a lot of damage. Now, as far as resistances go, I could max out putting down a totem. I could max out elemental, but I'm at 30% physical, so that's not too great. Okay, Simmering Cultist Scepter, nothing too good. I've made a small filter, it's nothing over the type amazing. But for now it should help us. As now I'm finally going into the endgame, I am starting to... I'll start needing a loot filter, so I'll start figuring out how to make a really good one in the near future. But for the moment, I've eliminated what I felt was useless, and I want to highlight the key modifiers like lightning damage. I think I put on the cold damage as well, spell damage. So that's what we're going to be using for a while. Let's fight one of these. It should be fairly easy. These mages don't represent that much of a problem at the moment, especially because they're doing elemental damage, and once I'm putting down those totems, I have so many resistances that it doesn't even matter. And it's done. So, body armor, yeah, I've seen this before, I don't see anything good about it. I'll pick up that. Two-handed sword, I don't care for. Let's keep going here. So far, so good. I see no real issues with the build that we have right now. And where the hell are we on the map? In the Divine Era Solarium. Okay, should be a bit more careful with that area of effect. And I'll show you one of the pieces of gear that I have. I didn't know exactly when I found this what they were, but they're really cool. They are called, they have something, Weaver's Wheel they had on them. And what Weaver Wheel is, It's a special mechanic on a certain unique item representing the amount of total affect tiers the unique item will gain at maximum when turned to a legendary item. And basically, as depending on how the number that it has, it tells you how many times will it upgrade itself. So it's gathering experience as you are fighting and killing monsters, and it provides you with some random modifiers like you see in red above. 9% increased movement speed, 1 vitality, 80 armor, and 40% increased cooldown recovery speed, besides the rest of the effects which I have there. And I just didn't have anything better to throw in, so I threw this just to try to see what it's all about, and it's actually really cool. I got a lot out of it. Might not be super specific or powerful for the build that I'm running, but still they were much better than anything I had. So if I'm getting a bit of haste here and there and I'm getting some modifiers with it, totally happy. I like the new things which I'm seeing after getting past level 35. Enemy variety doesn't disappoint either. We have a new passive skill point. At this point, we will need to invest 3 points in this to go here. Now, I don't want to upgrade this any further. I could get a bit more attunement, right, to get power overall, or I could increase the percentages of damage. You know what? Let's get 1 attunement and 1 penetration there, which is better than this one. And I was thinking, Maelstrom activates automatically. I think at some point during the leveling up process, the first steps, I thought that it doesn't trigger, but it actually does. Yeah, as you can see here, now I have Maelstrom stacked, so I don't need to keep it on my bar. And thus I am bringing in Avalanche, which, when fully buffed, as you can see, I am moving up to 10,000 damage. And that could be very useful in certain situations, although it eats mana like crazy. Not something that I will want to do too often, but whenever the opportunity arises, maybe it's a very slow boss or something like that, we are going to use the Avalanche, which is a channeling attack. It takes a while for the ice to drop, but when it does a lot of damage. And the thing, this is the main reason, because it is a channeled attack, and because it is a direct casting spell, it's why I wanted to throw in this passive here. My 20% chance to drop a bolt while channeling. So we're gonna use that. So far so good. Okay, so we're getting some sort of centaur deers. Deertors? 10 deers. The Scorched Grove. Survive the battle between Raya and Heroth. Okay, so he's on our side. He looks pretty cool. And he's not allowing us to kill anyone. Ah, okay.
You are no longer worthy.
Be gone from this land.
My flames will scour this place. So be it then. Perish. Pathetic.
What?
I
You
do not
just
have
died?
Much longer. Go north. Retrieve the lance.
Put your weapons down. No. Herot and did find
Okay, so this is the younger version of what
We
we've
have
seen
much to
earlier.
discuss.
But is that all? I hope we can see him again. I guess we are time travelers. But if that is all,
Stronger
that's...
now. I am ready.
We just
to
stood there
regain my
while he died.
honor.
Oh, I found these things here where I will be stashing them and keeping them for the Totem Build Druid. Increase spell damage while transformed, that's going to help us. Increase minion melee attack speed, that's going to help us because some of our totems in the druid form are melee, so we're gonna use those. Then we have this one, increase cast speed with physical spells, extra critical strike chance with physical spells, so that is going to help us a lot with physical damage. And this one, +1 to split gun form, which is the form that we use, or spell physical damage with which the totem use. So overall, we have some pieces of gear for the other characters. The Totem Druid is something that I will want to play definitely. It's another one of those ideas where totems are not the strength of druids, they are the strength of shamans.
Yes?
But somehow we've made it work, and I am totally fine and happy with that. Let's go to the right first. I got lost for a short while there with one of these quests, the Herborian Cure. Apparently I have to go over here, but this kept lining up and I just started looking around, trying to figure out what did I have to do. But apparently it wasn't really anything that I had to do. Let's go forward. For the moment I'm taking a lot of damage. I updated the loot filter to also show me the physical resistances for armors or equipment, just trying to throw some stuff in. I have no more open slots I have prefix slots, but I don't have suffix slots in order to get those extra resistances. It's a bit unfortunate, I'm running through health potions like crazy. And I'm thinking that maybe I should start scaling up some vitality or something. Let's see. It's already at max. A bit of dodge rating, not necessarily something that I need, but every little bit helps, I guess. Over on this side, 0 forging potential. I could get a bit more here, yeah, a bit more health, but I don't have the right level to do so. And I guess the rest is at 0. I really need to start thinking about finding different ways to forge. Let's get a bit more health there. Spell damage, mana regeneration, and just some resistances. I'm gonna go... Oh, I can't do anything else. Well, that's it. Let's go forward. Doesn't matter. I do not have a health potion, and I did not have any Raven on me. But as you can see, physical is actually what's doing a lot of our damage. I could put down a few totems to at least get some resistances on cold. That still won't be enough. Physical is the biggest damage dealer there, 30%.
Gods. Terra watch over you.
Level ups. Let's see over here. What are we going to do? Well, we're gonna get another point over here. Damage with haste 16%, so we're getting a bit of extra damage. For Maelstrom here, let's get that freeze. 40% freeze multiplier. And then I'm gonna get Maelstrom chance. Yeah, we're gonna get that to 10% just to see. Falcon of Suppression, no. There's nothing else left on this map, and we'll close the episode by going in the other area and just see what it has on the map. I'm hoping we'll fight the boss or something, just to see the new power level. That's it. Nomad Camp. More quests. Dexterous boots. Okay, so we've got a pair of boots that might help us with resistances. Let's see, what are they? 30 armor, 70% increased movement speed, 34% cold resistance, plus 1 dexterity, 18% physical resistance, and some cooldown. We would lose a lot of armor, some movement speed, a bit of vitality, but that's it. The rest with the haste and all that doesn't matter too much. How far can I push these boots? 36% resistance on physical. Yeah, it's also giving us cold. At least for this area, we definitely want to keep that. Cold and resistance will increase our survivability over here, right? So that's what we want to focus on. We're gonna head up north. What am I going to give you? Every 10 seconds, Stormcrows cast Wisdom of the Storm on its nearest ally, granting it Aspect of the Crow. Aspect of the Crow is providing us with extra spell lightning damage and melee lightning damage, but spell is more important. However, in this situation, it only has a 10% chance to grant you when the Stormcrow hits an enemy. So I could go this way. Actually I have to go to 20% and then go this way. Maybe getting higher cast speed might be better. Or, as I said, I think I need a bit of dodge. And this could be good as well. So we'll increase cast speed and movement speed and then increase the dodge rating. Even offering them 40 points would help a lot. And it is very difficult to start getting the crows back when they die. Minions work in a way, at least the minions for the druid, whenever you summon them, it takes a while for them to fully die out before you can re-summon them. Otherwise, if they are on the battlefield, you'll have to go and revive them, so that is very different than the experience with the Necromancer, where you don't really care about your minions, they are expendable. Okay, definitely the resistances worked. I was taking a lot more damage in the past than I am taking now, so I can only conclude that it worked. Come on, give me a battle. Show me a true challenge. Vengari Matriarch. Actually, let's try to take down this one with the spell casting. Could even bring in some of these avalanche. I'm out of mana now. I could say that we pretty much melted them. It's not even a challenge, weirdly enough. And we can consider ourselves satisfied. That's going to be it for this episode. At this point, I'm going to start going forward through the game. I'm going to farm for a bunch more levels and we'll return in the next episode. Who knows when exactly. But as far as schedule goes, it's going to be tomorrow. And yeah, hope you have enjoyed it. If you did, do consider leaving a like, as it does help me, help the channel grow. Subscribe, keep in touch. If you have any thoughts about the build or anything that's going on, let me know down in the comments below. Till next time, I wish you all to have a wonderful day.